Hi friends! So today I want to talk about heat embossing. Show you some examples of some cards, and then we're going to talk about how to do it and how to do some different techniques with it. So this one, you see the silver shiny part there, that's heat embossed. Here also silver on blue paper to make the Christmas ornament. Here it was gold embossed on the green and the red paper and then cut out to make the poinsettia. The words here and the dove in gold. Here's a copper embossing powder on designer series paper, so that looks neat. Then we had, this is actually green embossing powder to make the palm trees. We had a couple years ago a green and a red embossing powder that we used to make this. And this is gold embossed on vellum and then colored from behind. I'm going to show you about that. This is, again, embossed on vellum and then colored on the front. These are just some fun spider webs. This is done with the silver embossing powder, and this is done with the white. So you can emboss on colored paper or on white paper or on vellum, it doesn't matter. This is one of my favorite cards that I made a few years ago. It's on watercolor paper, embossed in gold and then watercolored. And you can see another card that someone had sent me as a swap. You can see how the embossing just kind of makes that pop. So, just to review how to emboss, you always want to start with your embossing buddy, which is kind of a fine powder. And you rub this over the paper first because you need to take out the static electricity. Any finger oils or static or anything is going to cause the powder to stick in places that you don't want it to. So then you need to use a pigment ink normally. So we have some of these gold or silver. You can get colored pigment ink as well, although we're not selling that. Most people use the Versamark. And you need something that's sticky. Our regular dye ink dries very quickly, too quickly for the powder to adhere. We want it to dry quickly because we don't want to make a mess when we're stamping, but when you're going to emboss, you have to have something that's going to stay sticky long enough to hold the powder. So if you just ink up, and I'm using the Versamark, just which is clear, and then you're going to stamp here. And then once you've stamped it, I know you can't see this, you want to get the powder on it fairly quickly. And see how the powder sticks? If you had any little extraneous pieces of powder, you want to take a little paintbrush maybe and get those off, because wherever those extra little pieces are, they will emboss also. You would then take your heat tool, and just in the interest of time, I'm not going to heat the whole thing, but you're going to heat it until you can see the powder start to melt. And I'll just start with that. And the powder melts and gets kind of shiny. Takes it just a minute. When the gun is warm, there we go. When the heat gun is warm, it's much quicker. Okay, can you see that, how this is heated? So that's now permanent. This is still powder. If I were to brush this, it's going to come off. Okay, so you have to, once it's heated, then it's permanent and it's not going to go anywhere. So I took some of the vellum and I embossed with the copper and the black on it. So when you, like I was saying on these, you can either color it from the front on vellum, and you'll get a dark kind of a color. There we go. Okay, you can see how that's dark, but you can also color from behind, which a lot of people like to do because it gives you more muted color. So once you color this from behind, and again this is on vellum, and turn it over, can you see how that just gives you more of a hint of the color, and this one's darker. The other thing that you can do with the embossing powder, like I said, is to emboss on watercolor paper. You can then take one of our ink pads and get a little bit of ink on the lid, and then use your watercolor pencil to pick up some color. And this just really watercolors beautifully. The embossing helps to give it like a barrier so that it doesn't get outside of the area, and you can go back on it as much as you want to make it darker or lighter. And this is just a really, really cool technique when you want to watercolor. Usually too, as a tip, when you're watercoloring, you want to leave some white areas. True watercolor always has white areas in it. Okay, so I want to show you one more thing, which I think is like the coolest thing of all. Right now, the majority of embossing powders that you're going to be using would be black, white, and the metals, the silver, gold, and copper. But wonder if you wanted to emboss something with different colors. Okay, so see, I embossed the little pot here in copper, and then I stamped the stem just in a soft suede. Didn't want that embossed. So if I were just to stamp it regular, that looks nice, but look how much nicer this one looks. Okay, but how would you do that? That's like a variegated thing. Okay, so just wanted to show you quickly how to do that. You want to use a stamp positioner for sure if you're going to do this technique. Our Stamparatus works great. If you have a different stamp positioner, you can use that as well. Okay, and we're going to ink it up. I'm inking the leaves now with my lightest color, which is a crushed curry. Okay, and I ink the whole thing. And then I'm going to take a little bit of pumpkin pie and take my sponge. This is a very dirty sponge I've been using a lot. And I'm going to just add a little pumpkin pie around the edges, just to get a little color in there. That's why my hands are so inky today. And then I'm going to add some cherry cobbler on the other side. Just a little touch here and there to give it some color. Okay? So then I had already positioned this, and I'm going to stamp down, and that gives me my leaves. Okay, so then you want to clean your stamp. You're using the stamp positioner because you want to be able to stamp in exactly the same place as you did before. Okay, go. I just want to dry the stamp off. Okay, so now I'm going to take the Versamark, and I'm going to use clear embossing powder. All right, so I'm still going to ink up the whole stamp again. I'm going to stamp it, and this is going to stamp in the exact same position as before, which again is why we use the stamp positioner. And then I'm going to cover with the clear embossing powder. See that? Can you see the powder on there? And then once I start to heat that also, you'll see those leaves start to turn shiny. I mean, you don't need to do your heat gun like this. If you just stay in one area till it's done, it goes pretty quickly. So see how that just makes it pop? It makes the leaves so much nicer than just leaving it flat. So whether you emboss on watercolor paper and then watercolor it like I did on this card, or whether you emboss on vellum and color that like on some of our other cards here, or whether you just emboss on colored paper as we did here with the red and the blue. I hope that you will add some heat embossing to your projects because it gives them a very nice, elegant look. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.